Yay! I am so excited for today's episode. Thank you so much, my lovely, beautiful friend, for joining me on today's episode. I think that our listeners are going to be in for a treat. How are you?
How are you?
I'm great. Just so that people know, we actually have already had like technical difficulties. And so this is going to be a great episode. Like, we're already having interference.
Yeah, I mean, last week I exploded a candle, so who the freaking knows? So it's
As long as it's not either of our computers, we're good. Like, we're golden. So when we see like explosions happening in the background or you hear those, yeah, pay no mind. It's just us.
just happening.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Tara, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Oh, who am I? That's a big question. I'm Tara. That's as far as I know. um, Currently, I have been going through like a massive transformation. So as a result of that transformation, and sort of making it through, uh, I would like to share with others the practices that helped me along my journey, and that is of breath work, meditation, mindfulness, and all of the lessons that I've learned, to really guide and share with others to maybe assist on their journey. So I am a yoga, meditation, mindfulness teacher at the Wellness Willow, which is my business. In addition, I own another business that I've owned for over 10 years, and in a career that I've done for almost 20 as a pediatric occupational therapist for children with autism, ADHD, developmental delays, behavioral issues. I work with parents and families, and I will be expanding on that as well in the future through more coaching and workshops and education. So there's a lot going on.
Really? I mean, I thought that you were just, like laying low.
I was trying. There is no laying low.
No, and I feel like Source is like, anytime we do think we're like laying low or going to lay low, Source comes up and is like, ha ha, just freaking kidding. Yeah, you thought you were like, no.
That's never been my experience, ever. Everything I do is with maximum intensity, so.
And this is part of the reason why I freaking love you so much. So, yes, I completely relate. So when would you say that you had your quote unquote awakening?
So I would say August 12th, 2016.
Well, that's very specific.
Specific.
So tell us a little bit about that, because clearly there must have been an event or happening.
Yeah, I mean, there was an event prior to this. So I connected in that weekend in August. I connected with a man in Las Vegas that happened to be like an intense soul connection. Some would call it twin flame. There's, multitude of labels, and I just like to leave it as the man, the catalyst. How about that? The catalyst for this, hence hellfire. So yeah, I mean, I had met this guy prior I'm from Philadelphia. I live here. And it seemed like there was an intensity. Like I felt his energy before I met him. And then like there was an intensity of eye contact with this person, but I was like really resistant. Me at the time, Tara, was very much, I was a tough woman. I mean, I was a little bit angry and a little bit jaded with men. I had just gotten divorced 3 years prior. So I was like, sort of like my friends call me the Black Widow, like, what kind of guy are you preying on next type of thing. I was zero spiritual, no spiritual. I thought psychics were quacks. I had no idea what a medium was, like literally no idea. I barely believed in God. I was like a non-practicing ex-Catholic. And I just knew not like tarot. I was like, what the fuck is that? I didn't know anything. Nothing. No astrology, zero. I'm like just literally just having a good time fucking men all over Philadelphia. And that's the way it was. I was working hard. I was playing hard. I was doing so hard.
Yes. Go big or go home, baby. Go big or go home.
Go big or go home. And so I was just like very flippant. And so when I met him, I was like, whatever. He was definitely into this scenario. And he's like, if you ever go to Vegas, and I'm like, I'm never fucking going to Vegas. So except for the fact that as the universe would have it, my college friends planned a trip to Las Vegas. And I was like, sure, why not? I was starting my life again. So I would say like 6 months prior to this trip, I was starting to be like, I'm not going to date men. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to reflect. I'm going to be a better person, a better human, a better boss, a better therapist. And I always worked hard. I was actually a workaholic. So men were just my recreation. Like I would hoard myself into work. I was an advocate for children. I love children. I was like, love my job. And that's all I did. Besides my son, like taking care of him, but like he's part of the children thing. So it was like all this dedication to them and then recreation on the side. So right before this trip, I was like, I was really being reflective, right? And so I downsized my business and I'm like, I'm going to have a better work-life balance. I'm going to spend more time for myself. I'm going to just find ease and really like think about what's the next steps in my life. And so as I'm approaching this trip, I'm like, I've been like such an angel for like 6 months. So I'm going to Las Vegas. I'm going to have fun and really do it up.
Go big or go home once again.
We get there. I mean, this guy's like, I want to meet for a drink, whatever. So by time 3 days later comes of me being in Las Vegas, my friends are kind of sick of me. They're like, so you're meeting this guy. Are you gonna hang out with us? Like, what's the story? Like, we're done with your shenanigans. Like, we want a girls' night. So like, we don't want to hang out with this guy. Like, I don't think I stayed at a hotel with them one night. I don't. So I was like, I'm going to blow him off. Don't worry. It's going to be great.
Clearly that happened, right?
You're going to meet me, have a drink. We're going to blow him off. It's going to be cool. Except for the fact that walking up to meet him, it was like out of a freaking movie. Like something clicked and some switch went off inside my body that I was like, I am not leaving this situation. Like there's something here for me to explore. And I never seen somebody look at me with such pure joy and pure innocence as this man looked at me. And it triggered something inside me. And so hence the weekend, I blew up my friends again. And then I like spent an entire like intense almost the whole time with this guy. The rest of the time I like met up with the girls here and there, but and it was super intense. Like I think that like when he touched me, I felt like electrical currents go through my body. And when he kissed me, there was like a lightning bolt through my body. And I blacked out actually for a few minutes. Like something powerful happened. And as a result of that, I had like a purge awakening, like someone call it a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. I don't, whatever that means, but it was like, I left and I'm like, I felt disoriented and confused. And my friends are like, and even my coworkers are like, what's happening with you? You're weird. And I'm like, I feel fucking weird. I don't know what the fuck's happening here.
Right.
Like, I had lots of sex with some guy and
it was great.
I'm changed.
He had
like, I don't know
magical penis. my God, it's so good.
So anyway, this relationship sort of long distance continued for a bit. He came out to Philadelphia a few weeks later. We spent another intense, this was like a much more emotionally intense visit. And I have to say, like, about a year and a half later, I did a medicine journey with a shaman of like 5-MeO, DMT, whatever. Yep. And where I went in that was exactly what happened with this person. And it wasn't even, it could just him being in the room, like triggered this DMT, like I'm in the multiverse, the cosmos, yes. You know, there's time and space did not exist. My body did not exist. Like we existed as energy and only we needed to be together. It was like an explosion of like vibratory energy, like something intense and massive shifted within me that I could never explain. And at the time I had no idea what the fuck was happening.
Right.
I was freaking the fuck out.
I was going to say, that must have been so scary, especially coming from a place of, like, not anti all of this, but just not having
anger, bitterness,
yeah,
resentment, like closed off heart. And it was like my whole entire body just ripped open and like my entire being became the cosmos. Like this, it's like an intense times a million or infinity like experience. Like this is like I can't even like fully articulate or put words to it. Like I only when I talk about it go to that place and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like it's intensely powerful. And so of course both of us freaked out in our own ways. You know, he slowly began to shut down and I slowly began to freak out.
Yes.
Like freak out. I'm like purging. It was like my guts were just like on the floor. So everything that happened in my life, everything that I either tried to deal with in a very human way, like through therapy or whatever, or I just avoided completely by working to death and then just being busy, friends, my child, my, whatever. You're going out and drinking and partying, like all of that stuff, all of that distraction.
Yes.
So like I started grieving just everything, the loss of my marriage, the loss of my friend who died the year before, the loss, just like so much loss, so much trauma. I was like, I'm depressed. I don't know what's happening. I went to a therapist. I went to yoga. I started meditation again. Like I started just doing all these things I had previously done but hadn't committed to. But I'm like, I need like full on assistance. And I'm the type of person that's like, okay, let's make a list. What do we do? Let's bullet this. Let's problem solve this. I'm crying for no reason. I don't know what the fuck's happening to me. I'm freaking out about this guy. I think I'm in love. I'm like Googling, what is love? How do you know you met a soulmate? How do you know you're in love? Like, it was ridiculous. I was like having a crisis.
I love this story. Like, it gets better every time, I swear to God. Okay, keep going.
I'm like, what the fuck? Am I in love? How can you be in love? You only spent 2 weeks with a man. Like, it's ridiculous. And so this goes on for a few months and I'm seeing a therapist and she's like, helping me along with like processing my emotions and all this therapy kind of crap. And so then I go out there in November and he like loses his shit. He acts like crazy person. We don't even see each other because he starts a fight when I'm at the airport. Like before I even got to the airport, he starts fighting with me. Like, I'm just like, has he lost his mind? I thought I was the one losing my mind. He's losing his mind. Like, because I like blew up on him and like kind of broke it off and he was then hurt and I didn't realize he was hurt and he was harboring all this resentment and anger and it was just like crazy. So I didn't even see him. But what resulted in that is like this awareness. Suddenly I was aware that the way that he was treating me in that moment was the way in which I treated all these other men. And including my ex-husband, and this like shut down of the heart and like not being open or seemingly empathetic. Like even though I was feeling the pain of the other, I was so shut down that it didn't seem that way.
Yes.
And so in addition, that trip, I started seeing all these number synchronicities, like 777 and 1111. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. What the hell is going on? This is super weird. And so when I got back, I went on like an apology tour. It was like a 12-step program. I was like, you know, now I'm like texting and emailing and meeting up with exes, calling my ex-husband from like a hotel room in Las Vegas. I just want to apologize for not being a good listener or empathizing with you.
I want to know, I have to, like, what was like the consensus of responses? Like, what was I mean, I'm sure there was a spectrum of
spectrum.
Yeah. You're like, you've lost your shit. What is wrong with you, to the, oh my God, thank you. Like, what were they?
I mean, so there were some emails sent. There were two men that were probably the most hurt by my actions, and they did not respond back, but I sent the emails anyway. Then there were men that were just like really grateful. They were like, thank you so much. That was so nice. Because it was genuine. It was from the heart. I was like really feeling for them and feeling like I want to give this to you. And then one I got together with and whatever. And my ex-husband was super receptive. And I mean, a lot of them were receptive. It was like the two that I figured were the most hurt did not respond to the emails, but that's okay. Like that wasn't the point. The point was to clear the energy, clear the space.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I would say then after that, it became really fucking crazy. So.
You mean it wasn't crazy before? What?
It wasn't crazy before. No, there's been like an increasing level of crazy. Now it becomes like a fucking sci-fi movie.
We went from like RomCom to sci-fi.
oh yes, to horror movie. We're not gonna get there. Now, like, we're moving onto a roller coaster ride that goes through hellfire. That's what we go to.
I'm so excited. I'm like, oh.
So in the meanwhile of all this is happening, like I'm starting to like feel him, like feel his presence, feel his emotions, think about him, he texts, whatever. Like it was just becoming these increasing synchronicities, all these numbers, all this craziness, these intense dreams, intensely real, realistic dreams. I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh my God, that happened. Like it was so graphic and so real and so sharp. And then it got a little darker. It was like spirits from his past, like his mother, starting to speak to me. And I'm like, I'm hearing fucking voices now. So this is
schizophrenia. Check. Like,
yeah. So now I'm like, I'm looking up intuitive counselors or whatever. Like, I'm like, maybe I need like an outside the box counselor, like see what they say. Yeah. And so I find this woman, she happens to be a psychic medium, and I'm like super resistant to this. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this is. I don't know why I'm like stalking this woman's website again and again and again. And then finally I'm like, I'm going to make an appointment. And she's like, well, I do an intake call. And I'm like, fine, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
And so she calls me up and I'm like, look, I don't really
this comes out. Look right here.
Look, I don't believe in this, but I'm having a situation here. I met a guy. I'm seeing lots of numbers. There was an experience. I'm having like these intense dreams.
I wish I had been a fly on the wall for
I'm like, I think like you're the right person, but I don't know. I don't like, you know, I just think this is kind of bullshit. So let's just see how this goes. And she's like, you're really resistant. do you want to get out of this? And I'm like, well, I just want to know what's with this guy. Like, I'm like, less about him and like getting together with him, but more about like, what's the point of him in my life? Because this seems significant to me. And I don't really know what's happening to me right now. I feel like I'm in a crisis and all of the regular things are just not working. And before I like try to go commit myself, I thought I'd try everything because, you know, I have a checklist. I have a checklist. I'm in control of everything. Okay? He's not fitting into the fucking the control. So I want him out, but I can't get him out because I keep dreaming about him. I keep thinking about him. I keep feeling him. So I don't know what's happening here, but we got to deal with this.
I think I'm going to pee in my pants. Okay, good. This is good.
So I make an appointment. She's like, okay, let's make an appointment. She's like, I would suggest that you like be open to what happens or whatever. So I go, we have like a session. She tells me all this shit about my family, all this shit about my ex-husband, all this stuff about my son. And I'm like, I didn't talk about any of this. This is legit. Like, how did she know? I'm like, and stuff that's not online because like I have a presence, I own a business. So like there are things about me that are obvious,
right? But
like she knew personal stuff. So I'm like, okay, she's legit. So I'm going to give this a try. Yes. But I'm still like, all right, so what about the guy now?
All right, my family, my husband, my shit. Okay, good. No, I came here for the guy. I want to know. It's always about.
I want to know what's happening here. What is this? What did he do to me? Because I'm feeling like very disoriented. Yeah. I can't focus. I can't focus on work. I can't focus at home. I'm having a mental breakdown. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I'm in pain. Like, I feel like I'm depressed. I don't know what's going on. And she's like, you know, it's an intense soul connection. She's, you know, you've spent many lives together. Your energy is like double helix DNA to me. It's like really intertwined. And she's like, this is for your soul growth. And I was like, okay, whatever that means. Okay.
Put on my checklist. Look up soul growth.
Right. So I'm like, I got to look up more shit. Figure this out. And so then it starts to get really intense. Then it's like nightmares, dark dreams. The mother is talking to me. And so like, as these sessions progress, I'm like, what is happening? Like his mother died when he was young. Like I'm like seeing what happened. I'm seeing like, she's talking to me. Is this what? Am I crazy? Do I need to commit myself? And she's like, well, she's like, you're a medium. And I'm like, what the fuck is that?
I thought I was a small. Fuck you too.
I'm like, this is not the sixth sense. I'm not going to talk to dead people, right? Like, and she's like, okay, we'll start slow.
It's like she knew you.
She's like, let's one thing at a time. But like, basically, like I would see this woman and she would just be like, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. You're not crazy. And I'm like spiraling into this downward, like I'm fucking crazy. And I'm seeing all these spirits and I'm getting attacked energetically. She's trying to teach me how to protect myself. He is being resistant to talk to me and I'm trying to get validation for all of this information. Like what happened to his mother? What happened to him as a child? I'm like reliving his trauma, reliving his memories as a child. I see him as a child in an orphanage, in a group home. You know, I am experiencing his loneliness, his grief, his abandonment, and then her abandonment from her family and from his biological father. Like I'm feeling all this chaos and this darkness and then his adopted family. Like I'm feeling the dynamic of that, the darkness of that. And there was a child that basically was the same age as he was, who died a year and a half before he was adopted. As you know, which is so crazy. And so this soul, this entity, super dark, was like talking, and I kept being like, who is this person? Who's this person? Who's this person? And he was totally freaked out. Like I'm having this, it was like a roller coaster through the depths of hell, like basically, yeah. Like all of the darkness Now I went through all of the darkness of my life, right? Now I'm going through the second phase was all the darkness of his past,
Right.
his past pain, his lineage, his family pain, the multiple abandonments. And so I'm like feeling it, like so feeling this trauma, this pain, this hardship, and I'm feeling all his fear and I'm like swimming in his subconscious. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And so, like, I met these other people, our friends, to help coach me. That I came across this twin flame thing. I'm like, is this guy my twin flame? What the fuck's happening here? They were also like, okay.
Let's go slow.
Let's go slow.
That should really be like your tagline. Let's go slow.
Let's slow down. And so, I mean, they're experiencing they're seeing all the darkness and negativity that's surrounding him, and that I'm experiencing that. And it was this crazy intense, like, we were fighting back and forth. Like, he was resistant to speaking to me, but yet he was always answering. And he was just like insistent that we be friends. And I'm like, we're not friends. I don't like, what?
Yeah.
Like, this is much greater than that. And so now then I start having dreams about past lives and like dreams about his friends and his family members, his father giving me messages, his best friend giving me messages, like in my dreams, in my meditations, in quiet time to myself. There would be like a flood of information, and I was constantly bombarded by energy of every kind. Sometimes extremely positive and guiding, and a lot of times extremely negative and like dark, violating. Like, there were days that I was like, I am not going to make it. Like, I could see there's so much physical pain, and I feel it in my physical body. I feel it emotionally, mental anguish, agony. I wake up screaming in the middle of the night or sobbing uncontrollably. Like, it was so intense, so traumatic. And in 2017, I thought finally we spoke at one point. We were always texting, but like finally we spoke, and he like validated everything from his childhood. He was like, all of that happened. He gave me more detail. He's like, I didn't know how you knew. Like, nobody knew about this brother situation, and it was intense. And like, my feelings for him were super intense, and I didn't understand why. Like, on a human logical level, it didn't make sense, and it didn't make sense to him either. Like, he would never really fully share with me his feelings and emotions about what the situation between us.
Right.
But I did find out, like, this woman he dated who kept coming back into his life during the course of the beginning of this situation, practiced dark magic. So I was like, oh, so, because I was like, where is this energy coming from? And so he tells me a story, and I'm like, oh, shit. So then there was an entity removal and exorcism. Like, I was like, I am fucking down a rabbit hole that goes all the way down.
It really does. It really friggin' does.
It really goes all the way down. Like, I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So like demonic energies, and I'm like, this actually fucking exists. This is insane. And he's like, at this point, like right after I left in November, Las Vegas, that last trip, he quit his job and started traveling the world and started partying around the world, really. So he started traveling and partying, like he had a like crisis. It's like, I'm just done life and I'm going to check out.
Yep.
And so every time he went somewhere where he partied really hard, it was like I was flattened, laid out for the entire time. The physical pain, the emotional pain, the mental anguish and agony, just the physical nausea, the sickness, I would feel him I would taste the drink. I would feel the hungoverness. I would feel him having sex with other people. It was like I was breathing him sometimes. That is how intense the connection was. I had like literal memories that were not my own. Like people are like, oh, I wonder how it is to be so-and-so for a day. Fuck no. Fuck no. I lived someone else's life at the same time of mine for 3 years. And I'm just going to say, we all have our own hidden darkness. That's enough for lifetimes.
Yes.
To add someone else's, the depths of someone else's pain and darkness and subconscious fears and programs and self-worth issues and judgments and criticism towards self. And oh my gosh, this man, I was like, so much compassion, but at the same time, I'm just like, oh, just do something. Like my drive to connect to him sometimes was like, if you just work to heal one wound of abandonment, we wouldn't like he would get triggered, or he would party and like open his energy field to the back door to fucking all kinds of entities and energies, and I would get flooded like a tsunami of darkness. It was literally insane, like so crazy. And this went on for 3 years. This went on until August 20th this year.
Holy shit. Like literal, like we're talking within 4 days, right? Like 4 days difference. Yeah, nope. No. Wait, so how did it stop?
So at a lot of energy work. So anyway, so I would say last year, we were talking a lot, like the spring of 2018 leading into the beginning of summer. We were communicating and we would talk for hours. When we would speak, it would be like entire night would go by, like 5-6 hours, like no time existed. And even though he was like trying to hide his feelings, like he spent so much time talking to me. It was like he avoided speaking to me because once he did, it was like the floodgates opened. And so he came to Philly for a visit, and something happened with the ex, that black magic ex, because I got wiped out. And so he ghosted me. And for an entire year, an entire 14 months, I was energetically connected this intensely to somebody that would not speak to me in the physical. And it was like, I'm like, I don't know, like my soul's boyfriend is on a fucking bender, and like, I don't even know what's happening. Like in August of last year, so like 1 year from the time I actually was able to disconnect to him, his father got sick, and I felt his grief. I felt the sorrow. I thought he passed. That's how intense the grief was. And it turned out his father was sick, and so he spent a lot more time here, which made it so much more intense for me. Yeah. So the end of 2018 and all of 2019 were pretty intense months, but I did so much energy work, so much soul work. I felt like I went through many ego deaths. Like I really surrendered at this point, because all that resistance that I had in the beginning, right, I just had to let it go. I had to let it go. Like this was the greatest transformation of, I mean, when I traveled the world, I was like, I'm going to find people to help me. I found coaches and energy workers and morphogenic field workers and shamans and Reiki masters and intuitive counselors, Buddhist monks around the world. I studied every religion, every ancient practice, every meditation. I searched high and low because I'm like, what is happening to me? Right. When I would get these energetic attacks through him, because I would do all the rituals, all the practices, all the sealing up. I'd have work healers help assist me. And it didn't matter because we were connected with a heart cord. And every single healer, every single energy worker, every single psychic, every single medium was like, holy shit, this is the most intense fucking situation we've ever seen. And we work with twin flames, we work with soul connections, we work with energy fields. It, like, we see him like he's a person. Yeah. And every time I would see somebody in person, not over the phone or whatever, they'd be like, it's like he's here. Yeah. Have you heard from him? I'm like, no, I live this every single day. I live this. I live his pain, and I live my pain every day.
That's
but all the while I came back to myself and I worked on myself, and everybody was like, you're the strongest person that we know, because nobody could deal not only with the intensity of this connection, but what it brought, the intensity of darkness. It was like I had a twin flame or soul connection that jumped, dived headfirst into the abyss, all the way down to the bottom, and then turned to me and said, Tara, we need a shovel. We're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the darkness. And I am going to find the root of all evil that exists not only on this planet, but all of the cosmos, the multiverse, the omniverse, whatever it is. The distortion that is the cause of all of this pain and suffering, all of this separation consciousness, all of it. And I have experienced it, all of it, through my physical body. And you know what? Like, when I tell people about it, I'm like, there's no fucking support group for like archonic attacks and like there's no support group for like how to deal with your soul's boyfriend who's like fucking not dealing with his wounds and not speaking to you. Like
that is the best term, soul's boyfriend. Like
I'm a fucking human being. I saw this guy for 2 weekends. He's not my boyfriend. Some part of me is like super attached to this fucking guy, and it ain't me.
Because let's be straight, that shit ain't me, okay? I can fuck him and leave him. This one, no. No. He's taking me down in the quicksand, and I'm the anchor supposed to hold on to the tree. That shit ain't happening.
So, I mean, like, look, we've had eons and eons and eons and eons of time together, tens of thousands of lifetimes with this person, and on every timeline, in every dimension, and there's infinite all of it, right? And it's so hard as a human being because I still don't understand, even I understand maybe this tiny, tiny, tiny bit. It's befuddling. Yes. It's befuddling what has happened the past 3 years. And so I had done a lot of work and a lot of deep inner work, just digging deeper inside me, and the strength and the divine will that has fought for my life through all of the pain, all of the suffering, alone mostly. I mean, I had the healers, I had the guides, I had the assistants, but like, I didn't have a support system. And I'm like waking up every day and getting my son to school and waking up every day and showing up for my families and for my clients and for my therapists and for, you know, my colleagues, and just showing up despite the pain. Like, when I tell people now, like, it's that part of the journey is over with him, that the last 3 years have been the most hellish years of my entire life. They're like, really? You went through a hard time? And it's like, well, I'm like, I couldn't tell people because, like, how do you even begin to explain the M. Night Shyamalan movie that I live?
Well,
In
especially to people that aren't even remotely close to being woke themselves.
No, it's like crazy. Oh, and by the way, my son was my little guy. He like drop all this wisdom. He would like give all this confirmation for what I was going through. I mean, if it wasn't for him saying what the things he said, and when I would like wake up screaming, he would be like, "It's okay, Mom, you have a big mission here." When I said to him, like one of the last major breakdowns and attacks was February, March of this year. It was the worst. So like I had lots of energetic attacks. I felt like I was stabbed, gang beaten, burned, like nausea, like pain down my neck, and like entity removed, like all of these things, right? Like physical pain, emotional agony, mental anguish. This knocked me out for 6 days. I didn't go to work. I couldn't get up. Like I thought I woke up after fitful night's sleep and just to pour down my face in defeat. And I'd be like, why am I still alive? Like, why am I still here? This is too much. And my son was like, said something about spirituality. And I'm like, I'm not talking about spirituality anymore. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
I am done. And he started bawling, crying. And I felt so guilty in that moment. I'm like, oh my God, I'm totally fucking up this kid. Like, I'm going through all this. I'm crazy. Like, I'm trying to raise him. I'm trying to do the right thing. And the whole time he's being like, he's just, being so wise, like a little guru, like a little Buddha, like dropping wisdom left and right, being like, asking me, and then I would say, how do you know that? And he just would say, I don't know, it just came to my mind.
And how old is he?
So he was 7, now he's 10.
Yeah.
So when I said, I'm not going to talk about spirituality anymore, he was crying. And then I'm like, okay, I am going to, don't worry. He's like, how are you going to teach me? I'm like, I'm going to teach you. It's going to be okay. So I put him to bed, and then he comes upstairs and he stands by like at the entrance of my room, and he's just staring. And I'm like, what is it? What is it, John? And he's like, I'm just really concerned about what you said earlier. And so he comes around, sits on the bed, and he's just sitting up and staring at the wall. And I'm like, come lay down. It's okay. I told you I was going to talk about spirituality. He's like, I just don't know how humanity is going to know who they are if you don't speak about the truth. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm just trying to live another day. I'm not trying to guide humanity to the truth. I'm just trying to live a freaking another day. Like, I don't know what this kid is talking about.
The fuck? Oh my God. What?
And so yeah, he would say things like that all the time to me. Like, don't worry, Mom, you have a big mission. Like, when I'd wake up and just be bawling, crying, he's like, don't worry, you have a big mission. Or when he told me this summer in my kitchen one day, he's like, he named my at the time, twin flame, and he's like, he's just not going to make it this life. So, you're just going to have to go on without him. And I'm like, what? And he's like, he's just not gonna, he's not ready. And I was like, where are you getting this? And what?
Have you been reading my text messages? Like,
right, like I never talked to him about this stuff directly. He would eavesdrop or whatever, but like also he doesn't like I would make my healing appointments when he wasn't there.
Right.
When he was with his dad, like the nights he was with my dad. So like I could have privacy and he didn't overhear what I was talking about and the craziness. But he would say things like that all the time, or he would say, why did you wake up in the middle of the night crying? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, what, are you sad? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like it's my sadness. And he's like, well, sometimes it could be your twin flames. And I'm like, what?
Like, what books have you been checking out at the library? Like,
yeah, I mean, he would say stuff all the time. Like when the mother was, the guy's mother was following me around spiritually, he was like, who's the lady following you around? And I'm like, we're walking down the street, no one's behind me. And I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you ask? And he was like, she said she wants to heal her son. Is she one of your client's mothers?
how is his connection now that he's older? Does he still have it?
No, not as strongly. And, that was a real grief process for him. Like, he had it in the very beginning of my awakening, I think for the purpose of leading me. Like, he had deep connection to his spirit guides. He would call them his protectors. He would say that they told him things so that he wouldn't fall down steps, like give him warnings. Like, he had, they taught him about the universe, and he would tell me about the universe and the dark, the distortion and the light, and that we're here to serve the light, and like all this stuff. As a 7-year-old boy, like, he was just spewing all this stuff out. Like, I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm so glad you're awake. I've been waiting for you my whole life.
My whole quote unquote 7 years, this go round, my whole life I've been waiting for
My
you.
whole life I've been waiting for you to wake up. And I'm like, why didn't you ever tell me this before? He's like, well, because I didn't want you to think I was crazy. So he had that awareness too. And then when he was 9, he started to lose that intense connection. And I remember him saying, I'm starting to forget. And, I'll be honest, like, it was right before the start of the most intense episodes for me. And I think, not only was it the age in which it tends to cut off, but also he was seeing all the darkness. Like, he was like, you have to sage the space. There is too many dark entities. Like, he was seeing and feeling all of that. And so, yeah, I mean, it was to protect him. But then he would just have flashes of insight. So, like, the last 2 years have been a lot of flashes of insight. Like, and sometimes he would, like, have these intense flashes of insight. And he's like, my head is tingling. My heart is, I feel so much joy. Because he was, like, channeling these messages of, like, he would just say, don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't be afraid to tell your story, Mom. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting a lecture right now. And then he would just keep going, and he's like, I'm feeling so good, and I'm feeling my head tingle, and my heart is so full of joy. And I'm like, oh my God, he's channeling.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, our relationship has gotten so much closer. And he said to me in the beginning, he's like, I would go sit at the table on the patio and just sit and, try to process what was happening to me. And he came outside one day and he's like, don't worry, Mom, I'm here to protect you spiritually. You're here to protect me physically. We're here to work together in this life.
You can't make this shit up.
No, you cannot make this up. So, like, this 3 years was like it was a rapid, I mean, every energy healer is like, nobody's gone through, like, you're just an anomaly. Like, my energy fields, what came up in my energy field, my connection, the rapidness in which I went. There's a reason why we don't go through rapid transformation, that the awakening flow. I would not recommend that to anybody. It was like, I thought I was going to die, like, all the time for 3 years.
It's like 3 years that literally should have been 30. Like spread out so, but it was like so deep and so impactful. Like,
so deep. I mean, I'm a different person.
You are.
I have died and died and died to my ego and let go of my belief systems, my patterns. I did inner child work. I did codependency work. I did work on myself. I saw all these health professionals. I spent so much time, so much money on all my growth. And I saw how when I would change, the people around me would change, the relationship with my clients would change, the relationship with their parents would change. I would become more vulnerable and share about my story with my son as far as like his special needs and going through the process of school and raising him and how hard that was in the beginning.
Yes.
And I would see that every child had this connection and this innocence to them, especially these children with autism and ADHD, and we diagnose all these disorders. We even mental health, we diagnose all these disorders, but it's freaking trauma from living on this planet. We are traumatized.
Yes.
We are living in a world of separation consciousness.
Yes.
We all have these wounds of separation. That's one. And then stemming from that is betrayal, persecution, abandonment, and rejection. And we just repeat that over and over and over again towards each other, towards ourselves. We are born into that. And it just perpetuates itself again and again and again. Us versus them, you versus me. And my experience showed me we are one. Like that guy was me. I experienced his life. I saw it through his eyes. I saw his own pain, his own trauma through his own eyes. We are all in this together. That's the truth. And we're having to heal and look and say, this is not a disorder or a disease. This is living in this dimension, this density, where all this distortion exists in this consciousness of separation. And we're all individual, unique, sovereign fractals of one energy. One source. It's like if you throw a vase really high on the tile floor and it cracks into tiny shards of glass everywhere that you find infinitely, like weeks, days, months, years after, like, oh, that piece under the snow is still there from my glass days, but like it's infinite and it continues over and over and over again. And so it's a lot because my son feels this so strongly, like to live with an open heart. He teaches me how to do that. It's like, I love and care about people so much, Mom. I care and love people so much. And I want them to know who they are and that you're going to tell them who they are. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe you're going to tell them who they are.
No pressure. Thank you, buddy. Love you too.
No, I know. As if I didn't have enough to deal with the kids for me and guilting me into like, how are people going to know? I mean, the thing is, like, this was the catalyst for transformation, and the connection between myself and this man was a soul connection, and an energetic connection, and we were connected at the heart, and we shared a template. And so in August, for the whole summer, I had done so much work and so much transformation and so much inner healing and growth and acceptance, and really living the principles of like acceptance for what is, letting go, living in the moment, and staying present to what is. Like if I'm feeling an emotion of pain, to not bury it, to feel that, to allow that to go through me, and to release and let go for whatever is in the plan, including him. And I think by the end of the summer, I had an energy session, and it was to a point where he had done none of that, and it just didn't make sense, and it was time to let go completely. And so the cord was dissolved, the template was dropped. I don't really know, like, conceptually, like, what that all means, but what I know is that for 5 days straight, I cried nonstop.
I was gonna say, that must have been such a mourning, grieving process.
Nonstop. It was like a cleansing. It was, eons. And like, this human life, the intensity of 3 years, and like having this energy, this person with you all the time. And also having so much love and compassion and for him. Like, there were so many times I was angry and resentful and like, why is this not happening for him? And why am I going through this? And like, I want to cut this cord and all of these things. But it was underneath it all was just love, And so that was painful.
So what does life look like for you now, today?
So, it's a double-edged sword. It's like, I feel freedom, like a relief. Like, I took a 500-pound weight off my shoulders, right? There's this lightness in me, but at the same time, there's this grief that exists. There's this unknowing and this constant surrender of like, and all the energy's cleared, and it took a while. Like, after the cord was cut, it took another month to really clear his energy out. It was not easy. And then to clear the distortion that was underlying a lot of the dynamic between us. But yeah, like, the human doesn't understand.
No.
What was that about? Why do I not know what he experienced? Like, I'll never know. Like, mine wasn't a physical relationship. This was a metaphysical experience that made it no less real to me.
Exactly.
And so that human aspect of me, which, by the way, the human aspect of all of us is beautiful. It's about bringing our energy and our soul down to this human body, this human vessel, because that's what it's about. That's why we're here, to embody.
Yes.
And to live from that space of the heart. And so that's where I am, and to allow myself the grief, to allow myself to feel the waves of whatever it is, even if it doesn't make sense. I can't logic it away.
Right.
It just is.
Right.
And to hold space for that.
So there were so many lessons, I feel like, people can take away from this, and so many different bits and pieces and messages. But if pretend like somebody didn't listen to a damn thing this entire episode, what is one piece or one trinket that you would love listeners to take away from you?
There isn't any savior. There isn't anybody, not one person, not one entity, not one angel, soul, whatever, that will come to save you. The work is done within. And that's where all the strength lies, within your own heart. The infinite wisdom of the entire multiverse lives within you. You are the answer. You're the one. You are the one.
Girl, I can't even begin to describe to you how much love and compassion I have for you. And just hearing this all again, like, it doesn't make it any less impactful, because obviously, yes, I've heard this your story before, and it is just to add to the plethora of, people that you've worked with. Like, it is the most profound awakening experience that I've ever encountered as well. And not that should make you feel like a fucking unicorn or whatever, because, you know, all
It just is. It just
exactly,
is. This was
exactly.
my experience. And, you know, in sharing it, it's not to be like, I'm special. You know, hearing that from you and hearing that from others validated for me, like, holy fuck, like I'm experiencing this and it's so intense and so much
Yes.
physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Yes.
It helped me to dig deeper and to go within and to gather more strength and courage. But it doesn't make me any more special than anybody else, because it's like we all have our journey.
Yeah.
We all have our individual journey, and we're here to claim our sovereignty and to express our individuality on a soul level in a body. But we're also here to assist and to hold each other through it. And
Yeah.
so it's so important to reflect and to mirror and to trigger, and all of that's important. Nothing is good or bad. It just is. It just is the experience. And this is the experience of life. This is the earth school. This is what we came here to do, to learn the soul lessons that we had planned on doing before. And it's a crapshoot. I mean, listen, we planned it out, but like, who the fuck knows what's going to happen here? We only have this tiny, teeny, tiny perspective, because we can't possibly have all of the perspectives, because we are not all of the fractals.
Exactly.
And we don't even have access to all of the aspects of ourself in this human dense form. Exactly. That's what we're here to do, to ground it all down and to witness that journey in others, and to witness that journey as a human collective for the entire planet, for the planet herself.
Yes. That very well could be the most eloquent way I've ever heard it expressed, seriously, because so many people, I feel, make it so much more difficult and extreme than it has to be. And you literally were just able to simplify what our purpose is this go round in the most simple, like, girl, I love you. I fucking love you.
Dude, thank you so much.